Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.
Germany now, and I listened these days to some of the music. I mean, I know you've known your music since that Straight Ahead record came out, which was like mid '90s, I guess.
Which the Street Life?
Yeah, no, the Straight Ahead one with Dave Kikoski. I love that one.
Straight Ahead was '90s, yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. And but I wanted to ask you about the Bad Barry Finnerty collective, since we mentioned Germany.
Right. Yeah, I love that, man. Joost Nickel is the drummer.
How did this happen, first of all?
Well, I met Joost Nickel and Arndt Geisse. That's the bass player and drummer. Back in, I think it was just maybe the year after I did Straight Ahead, or it might have been the year before. It's like '96 or '97.
Oh wow! So
they were playing in a band called Matalax. That was a fusion band that Randy Brecker had done some gigs with, and this guy who had this guy named Bert Gerecht, he was a bass player who had a record label. He put us together, and we did a record called The Bargain Hunters. You know, it was just a trio record with a couple of, I think it had a keyboard on a couple of tracks, but it was basically a guitar fusion trio record, and it was pretty good. They were good players, but then we decided we got together again, and we played some of that stuff at the Montreux Festival. I think it was in 2004, 2005, something like that. And then somehow the idea came up. I was gonna do an album of Mose Allison songs.
Yeah,
I love Mose.
Yeah, Mose.
I was originally going to use Steve Ferroni and Daryl Jones, who are the rhythm section that I did a record with. They're famous guys. Sure. Who they are.
Sure.
Yeah, I did a record with them back in '89 called "To Be Named Later." It came out in Japan, and I was going to use them, and we were talking about it. But then this guy in Germany, Ludwig, who had gotten me some gigs, he suggested I do it in Germany, and it made sense because I had the chance of getting more gigs, and to take Steve Fern and Daryl Jones would be expensive. Sure. It would be hard because he was working with Tom Petty, and Daryl's got the Rolling Stones and shit. So, I went to Germany, and when I started playing with Joost again, it was amazing because his groove had gotten so fat and beautiful, man. He really matured a lot. And he'd been playing with this platinum German act called Jan Delay. He's an all-German rapper now, and he's super popular just in German countries. But anyway, so we did a couple of gigs, and then we said, well, God, we need to make a record. So they got this keyboard player, Lutz Kriensky, who's a monster. And then I wrote some horn arrangements, and we used the guys from the NDR Big Band. And I don't know, the record just came out great. It's
beautiful. It sounds it's like so funky, and it's like Steely Dan a little bit. It reminded me of this vibe, this like really cool, nasty, funky, jazzy.
4 Mose Allison tunes, and then we did 3 tunes that I wrote with my wife, which are great tunes. I mean, I wish we're going to try to make a video and do something with it. My wife and I are quite a songwriting team sometimes, We did put out the three videos.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that song, "The Hippies Tried," that was one of our. I love that. I love that stuff, But the thing is, we didn't get any traction. We did 2 gigs back in 2016.
Oh shit!
2 festivals, and the last one we played for 4,000 people, and we got a standing ovation. I sold like $1,000 worth of CDs after the show. That was the last gig we got, and it's been almost 5 years.
Wow.
It's really a drag, but Jan Delay's booking agent manager guy was supposed to handle us, and he kind of told us for like 9 months, oh yeah, I'm just a little too busy right now, blah blah blah, but I'm going to get you guys some gigs, and then finally he said, I'm just too busy, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's real. The part about getting an agent and being able to get some bookings is, it's really difficult to overcome, and I'm just not considered bankable by the business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Bankable. when they hear Mike Stern's name, oh yeah, hire him. Mike Stern goes on tour, plays the same shit. He's been playing the same 5 tunes for 10 years. Seriously. But he gets famous players like Keith Carlock or Dave Weckl or Andrew Jackson, famous guys to play with him. Randy Brecker too, and but he goes out and he's bankable. He makes he's paying these guys lots of money and he gets his tour but to get your hotel and travel expenses and pay the guys, it's not that easy. And when they hear my name, they just think, yeah, Barry Finnerty next. Can we get Mike Stern? Can we get John Scofield? Can we get, And see, when the thing is, we're playing more commercial music than that. I mean, that's why I did
definitely.
the BDFC record was, because unlike some of these guys, I can sing, and I mean, I'm a good jazz player too, but I thought that but with the singing, we'd have a little bit more. Come on, guys, come on. Dogs. I thought with doing a singing record and having a funky thing, we'd have a chance to get more people interested and get a following. I figured if we could play at a couple of these big festivals, then we'd be somewhat more in demand for some gigs we could do on tour and do some clubs and stuff. But since the summer of July 2016, that was the last time we played a gig.
Oh wow!
So we talk about doing another record and everything, but somebody's got to pay for it.
Sure.
And I mean, it cost me about $10,000 out of my pocket to do the first BBFC record. By the time I fly to Germany and record, and
sure.
Jan DeLay kindly gave us his studio for free. We just had to pay the engineer.
Yeah.
But by the time you manufacture the CDs and everything, you're in quite a few $1,000s, and it's hard to make that money back. You have to have live gigs.
Yeah. Definitely.
These or if you get enough, or if you get some concerts and things, then you can make the money back. But
your fingers crossed, maybe.
No, I mean, I'm not in the kind of position to be able to just do a lot of those. I could do a few more. I mean, I did. My mom passed away 5-6 years ago and left me some money, but it's not enough to just spend and spend and spend.
No, come on, man, sir.
Forever,
No, sure. I mean,
so I love that band, and I really wanted to do more stuff with them, but just no gigs were happening. I mean, what we needed was a tour to be able to I came to Germany 3 or 4 times, and we did like 10 clubs. After 10 days, I'd go back with $1,000 or $2,000 in my pocket. What I mean?
Sure.
And, I'm willing to do that. I would do that again, but we haven't even had that, for 6 years, So.
Yeah, tough times. I mean, being a band leader, that's, I guess, especially, nowadays it's heavy, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's impossible now, but I mean, you first you have to be able to put some asses in the seats, I mean, and I can do it. I mean, if I get I could draw about 100 people in a town if they put a newspaper article and say,
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Miles Davis, he played with blah blah blah.
Definitely.
But just to get it to that point it's difficult, So,
yeah.
I mean, I'd love to do some more gigs with them, but right now it's not happening. And we got I took a big chunk of the money I got from my mom and I bought a house, in Genova. I found this house.
Oh wow.
I got it. It's such a beautiful place, and I got such a great deal on it. I paid 150,000 euros.
Oh wow!
And it's 200 square meters plus another 100 square meters upstairs, and it's got a beautiful marble floors, and it's 500 years old. It's beautiful.
Wow!
And I figured, I mean, compared to like if I was to get an apartment in Hamburg, just like where BBFC is, just to get a 1-bedroom apartment would be 350,000 euros. So I found this thing in Genoa. I said, well, hey, I can have a home base in Europe. I'm 10 minutes from the airport. I can fly right from Genoa. They have flights to Paris and Frankfurt and all. So I could get around pretty quick. So I bought the place, and now I've had it for over 2 years. I bought it in No. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I bought it in December of 2018, and I've only been there for 2 months.
Shit.
Yeah. So, but I would, my ambition is still to spend more time in Europe because I think I have more chances to get musical work over there. Maybe I could start guesting with some other bands and different
Definitely.
things. Yeah.
Europe's always been, I mean, for everyone who's involved in jazz or whatever, it's been the place where musicians come to play actually and to make a living, can earn money.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. Randy goes there like 6 or 7 times a year.
At least, yeah, and that's a good thing.
And
yeah,
there's another band I really like playing with. They're down in Ghana. We went to Ghana, Africa.
Really?
They're called the Ghana Jazz Collective. These 4 guys, they play so great, and I'd love to make a record with them. We were talking about trying to do that.
Wow.
If we could get some backing. I've got a lot of new material. My last record came out, the BBFC came out, 2014?
Yeah.
So it's been a while, and I've got a lot of new material. Not so much vocal material, but I've got a whole other project of that me and my wife wrote of funny songs. It's called Sex Songs for Idiots. It's a and I've done some production. It's almost ready to go. I've got about 7, but there's 25 songs. I've got like 7 of them finished, and it's all different styles, and they're real stupid, funny songs. It's a lot of fun, but before you put a production out like that, you have to think, what are you going to do with it? I guess I'm going to release it on Bandcamp.
Yeah, that's a smart thing.
And then people can find out about it and download it and all that kind of stuff.
That's the present and the future. I mean, like all the musicians do that. Like.
Because the only place to sell CDs is if you have live gigs.
Yeah.
If you're playing, I've found you can sell about 10%. So if you play for 100 people, you can sell 10 CDs.
Yeah.
If you play for 1,000 people, you might sell 100.
Yeah.
10%. And that's if you're playing for 1,000 people, then and you're selling 100 CDs a night, that's some money.
That's a good one then. Yeah.
But aside from that, when you're manufacturing your own CDs, if you get less than 1,000 of them, then they're like $3 a piece.
Yeah.
But if you get 1,000, then they're $1 a piece. Then it's nothing. Then you can give them away for
sure.
But if they're $3 a piece, it's a little, sometimes I just order 100 and I pay $300. But what I really need is to order 1,000. But then, I found that 1,000 CDs, if you manufacture them, they make a great coffee table.
Yeah, my basement is full of CDs, from the last 20 years that I've done. It's like, oh man, it's so sad. But how are we gonna get rid of?
Guitar player?
Yeah.
A guitar player?
Yeah. Done lots of stuff in New York and Europe and everywhere. So
Oh yeah, who do you play with in New York?
I don't know. Have you played with these guys? They're like Donnie McCaslin and Gerald Cleaver.
I know Donnie. I know the name. I know those names.
David Vinnie, Mark Elias. I played a lot with Tony Malaby.
David Vinnie. Yeah.
Tony Malaby. I don't know.
I haven't been. No, I haven't been living in New York since '99.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
So there's a whole crop of new guys there.
Yeah, it's
some good players. I mean, I know Paul Ballenbach and Mike Marino, he's good, and this guy Nerv Felder, and
Nerv Felder is amazing. Yeah. Lots of
Pasquale Di Grasso, that guy. Have you heard of him? He's like a modern Joe Pass,
Yeah, incredible.
He's got ridiculous chops.
Incredible chops. Yeah. Really good player. But I wanted to ask you this, like, I heard you singing on your last project, and where did the singing come from? Originally,
since I was a kid,
Yeah,
I've been since my high school bands. Yeah.
Wow.
And my first band that did anything around San Francisco was called Beefy Red. I did it from the time I was like 17 to I guess 21, and I was the lead singer of that band, and we played the Fillmore and stuff.
Oh wow!
On the undercard, But,
so we're talking about the late '60s then, kind of.
Yeah, the end is I was 17 in 1969, so
wow.
I moved to New York in '73.
How was that period like? I mean, did you catch like all the big guys then, like Hendrix and Jeff Beck and all.
Oh
those
yeah,
guys.
yeah. San Francisco in the '60s was the best place to be. It was great for music. I mean, it was the capital of rock and roll, more even than New York, really. It was,
Wow.
you know, and there was two main places, the Fillmore and the Avalon, and they would have the top bands. I mean, I saw everybody. I saw Hendrix, I saw the Doors, I saw Mike Bloomfield and the Electric Flag, the Cream.
Wow.
John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, everybody. I mean, I didn't see the Beatles. The Beatles was the only band I didn't see.
Wow.
But it was the world capital of, I know all the California bands too, like the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Quicksilver Messenger Service, Moby Grape, Sons of Champlin, Big Brother and the Holding Company. They were playing every week. At my high school prom, when I was a junior, which is second to the seniors had for their senior prom, they rented the Avalon Ballroom, and they had Big Brother and the Holding Company and Quicksilver Messenger Service. That was for my high school prom, and I think the whole thing cost them $500.
Wow.
It was
That's
incredible.
bizarre.
And they had free concerts in the park too. The Grateful Dead would announce they're going to play in Golden Gate Park, and we'd cut school and we'd go down there, and they'd start playing at 11 in the morning, and they'd go till 5 p.m. They just play all day and take acid, and they might take one break, but it was great. It was a great time.
Wow, How was Hendrix like, by the way? I mean, since you saw him, he's one of my heroes as well. So.
Oh, he was great. He was great. The first time I saw him, it was before he played Monterey Pop Festival. And what year was that? 67, maybe.
7, yeah.
Yeah. And he was third bill. It was the Jefferson Airplane was top. Then the Gabor Szabo Quintet.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love Gabor.
Jimi Hendrix was third.
Wow.
And he was incredible. And then after Monterey Pop, he came back and he was headlining.
Yeah.
But he was the greatest performer on guitar. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
His first two albums to me are his best stuff. All the good songs were on the first two albums. Then after that, Electric Ladyland had some. The third one, so I guess the first three. But after the first three,
the first three are amazing. Yeah, I know what you mean.
After the first three, he kind of got spaced out. He was a young guy. He didn't know anything about the business, and he got all fucked up. And the people around him didn't take care of him. I was just telling my friend, there's a book called Rock Roadie. It's by this guy named Tappy White, who was a roadie for the Animals.
Mm-hmm.
Animals. They were a huge band back then, and he was going to be in the band, but he didn't quite play guitar good enough, so he ended up being their roadie. And he worked with them and had a good time touring all over. And then when Chaz Chandler, who was the bass player of the Animals, left to manage Jimi Hendrix, he went with him. So he was with Jimmy in London doing all his things. And then what happened was Chaz Chandler, he broke with Jimmy because Jimmy fucked his wife while he was out of town. Jimmy was so fucked up, he fucked his manager's wife. I mean, how fucked up do you have to be to do that?
Very fucked up.
and he would do stuff like he was driving a Rolls Royce. He would just be so fucked. He would just leave it in the middle of the street and go into some club and party and they'd go get it. But after that, Chaz Chandler gave him to Mike Jeffrey, who was he was his partner, but he was like a London gangster type of guy. He had all kinds of mob type of guy. And so Mike Jeffrey took over Hendrix, and then he found out that Hendrix was going to leave and start his own band with Buddy Miles, I guess. I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
He was going to start his own band. So rather than let him go do that, they killed him. He didn't die accidentally.
Yeah, I've heard about these stories. Yeah.
So this guy waited till Mike Jeffrey was dead to publish the book. That's how scared he was, but that's the big story of that book. So yeah. But Hendrix was amazing. He was great. Big influence on me on my guitar playing.
You like transcribed him? I mean, like listen to him and
not transcribe.
I mean,
I was influenced by Jeff Beck and Clapton on Blues Breakers and Cream, and then Hendrix, for my rock playing.
Yeah.
And then I dug George Benson and guys like that, and Kenny Burrell and Wes for the jazz. So Did
you ever see like those guys live, like Wes and?
I never saw Wes, but I saw George Benson a bunch of times. And yeah, I know George pretty, personally.
Oh, wow.
I met him when I was 19. I went to the Berklee School of Music in Boston, and I went to see him. He was playing at this club called the Jazz Workshop, and I went down there. And I had heard his records, but I'd never seen him play live. And he played live so much better than you ever hear him on records. He just was killing it.
Yeah, he's a monster.
And afterwards, I went up to him and said, "I'm Mr. Benson. I just want to say, you were amazing. I'm a big fan. Blah. And I'm a guitar player. I'm going to Berklee. I just got here. I'm going to Berklee School." He goes, "Oh yeah, you're a guitar player? Come on in here and play my guitar." And so I went backstage with him. I played him a few licks. He says, "Yeah, you sound pretty good, boy. Whatever." And he's always been super nice to me. I was playing with the Brecker Brothers one time in New York, and he said he was sitting in the front row, and I was like, okay, I better play some shit tonight, And I did play really good. And then afterwards, he said, man, just keep playing like that, and you'll have nothing to worry about. Boy, was he wrong.
Well, but no, come on, that's a nice story still. With Benson. But did you see like Jeff Beck also? You saw him live probably many times, right? Jeff?
I saw Jeff quite a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, he's such a player.
And I happened to meet him once too. There was a party. There used to be this place in Times Square that had parties and jam sessions every Thursday night. I think it was Rick Derringer was having his birthday party, and Jeff Beck was there. I just turned around and they were at the bar, and there was Jeff Beck. And I introduced myself. He was super friendly. I was really, because a guy like that could easily have been a brushed off asshole kind of guy. But he was really nice.
Yeah.
I heard he treats his guys really well too. From the guys I know that played with him, like Terry Bozzio played with him a lot, and he pays like 10,000. He plays like 10,000 a night. He pays his guys 10,000 a night.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I mean, he had I saw that band with Vinnie Colaiuta.
Yeah.
And Tal Wilkenfeld. It's just.
Yeah, that's a great band too. Yeah.
Man, like Vinnie, of course, on drums. That's just for me. I mean, you've played with him, so
I played with yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite a monster. But I wanted to ask you, Barry, when you came to, you mentioned Berklee. So, and then after this small time in Berklee, you went back to the West Coast, right?
Yeah, that's right. I went to New York. I went to Europe. I was only 19 then, and I went to New York and I heard some guys play. I heard the Thad Jones Mel Lewis band, and I heard, some bad. I said, yeah, I knew I wasn't quite ready for New York, at that time. So I went back to the Bay Area, and I played with Beefy Red some more. That band, it was a 10-piece band with horns, and it's sweet. So then I finally went to New York in '73 for good.
Yeah. How was that like? I mean, if you can describe it. I mean, because I've spoken to so many players who kind of the same, your generation, like Bob Mintzer and Mike Richmond and all these amazing Randy Brecker. And how was the scene like in, let's say, 1973 when you came to New York? It
was, well, for one thing, you can't even compare it to now for the prices. I mean, you could get an apartment for $150 a month, and then you could, wow. And people used to cats used to get together. There was this drummer that we knew named Chris Braun. He had a little loft, and he used to have jam sessions at his place every night. And the word got around. All kinds of people would come down there to play. We'd be playing music almost every night. When we didn't have a gig, we didn't have that many gigs. I didn't make much money the first year, but I did get to go to Europe with Chico Hamilton.
Yeah, of course.
Sure. Mike Richie was in that band, and also Alex Foster.
Oh yeah,
great saxophone player.
Yeah.
So it was.
How did you get that gig, by the way, with Chico? How did that happen?
Alex Foster had been in New York. He was my friend from the San Francisco Bay Area. We'd known each other since we were 16, and he had just gotten the gig with Chico when I got there. So I was thinking I was going to take an ad, put an ad in the Village Voice, and see what I could get, which I did. But before anybody could answer the ad, I got in touch with Alex, and he said, "Oh, Chico's looking for a guitar player." So I went over there and played, and I got the gig.
Wow, that's easy.
Yeah,
that's incredible. But how did these the 70s, how did these jam sessions look like? You know, like many people told me, like the loft scene. Were you a part of that as well? Like with all
Well,
these
I don't know
guys?
about the loft scene. I think happened later. I mean, but this was a little loft. We used to jam there anyway, you know. But
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting tired of this. Are you videoing this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I'll leave it the way it is. Okay, but yeah, it was you know, but there was a, you know, I mean, for one thing, back then, all the great players were still around. I mean, I got to hear, you know, Elvin Jones and Jimmy Garrison and the Cedar Walton Quartet with Sam Jones, Billy Higgins, and George Coleman. They used to, there was a place on Bleecker Street called Boomers. They used to play a whole week, like Tuesday through Sunday, with one night off, and you go down there, and it was just the best jazz you could possibly hear. I mean, you know, it was fantastic, you know, and you know, it was just a great time. You know, it was a great time.
Yeah. I mean, like
when you didn't have to be super rich like you do now to be in New York.
Oh yeah, definitely. Manhattan now, it's crazy. Like
you could buy a place. I mean, God, I actually was making some money towards the end of the 70s. I had like a couple $3,000 in the bank. Back then, with $2,000, you could put a payment down on a brownstone. You know, you could. There were whole houses you could get for 20 grand or 25 grand.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow, Jesus.
I mean, these are worth millions now. You know.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you know, but you know, I had never owned a place. I mean, I didn't know anything about real estate. You know, I didn't know anything about anything really. You know, so I was just concentrating on music. You know.
Yeah, but how was this for scene-wise for you? Like, I know you played with Steve Grossman later and Joe Farrell and all these guys. How did you start getting all these concerts in the mid 70s? Like,
well, I was pretty aggressive. You know, if I heard that somebody needed a guitar player, I would get their number and call them. You know.
Oh, okay.
You know, back then, you know, I mean, I think that's how I got the gig with Joe Farrell and with Hubert Laws.
Yeah, so, Hubert's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to him the other day. He's 81 now. He's doing all right though.
Wow.
You know, but we're still good friends. And yeah, I would just call people, and I met the Brecker Brothers at this place called Max's Kansas City, which was a famous like artists and rockers hangout. You know, actor. My dad was an actor, so he could hang out down there. He had an open bar tab down there, and we would go down there almost every night. And then one night the Brecker Brothers came in, and they were just a couple years older than me, you know. But we ended up hanging out, and they sat at our table, and we kind of got to know each other a little bit. And then I started calling Randy and Mike, you know. But I called them, you know. But they had their band, and they already had Buzzy Featon and Steve Kahn in the band. But then I guess it was '76. I was playing with Ray Barretto, and see, when I was with Chico, I wasn't using any of my rock stuff. I was playing with Johnny Smith, like a jazz guitar.
Yeah, and I love Johnny Smith.
Kind of like I was more of a jazz player. But then I got this gig with Ray Barretto back in '76, and we played a gig at the Bottom Line, and I started using distortion again. I had a distortion box, and I could do that much easier than any of the other New York guys because I came out of rock and roll. You know, yeah. I was a rock and roller that changed to jazz rather than a jazz player that tried to play rock. So I could do it. And then Randy was in the audience that night, and I guess that changed his mind because then they called me to be on the heavy metal bebop band.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And you know, but it was because I was able to use the distortion and play a real screaming rock guitar, you know, convincingly, you know, and a lot of jazz guitar players. They can't bend a note at all. They
sure.
Never, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And even George Benson, he bends the notes a little bit. But one time I was at this place, the Bottom Line. That was like the main nightclub in New York.
Yeah, sure.
And B.B. King was playing, right? I was there to see B.B. King. And George Benson was in the audience. So B.B. King says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have got a great guitar player. We'd like to invite him up to play a tune with us. Let's hear it for George Benson." You know, the place goes crazy, right? Oh, George Benson and B.B. King, you can't believe it, right? So they played the blues, right? They played a blues. And George was like, you know, yeah. And it was okay. But then B.B. came in.
Yeah.
and the band just cooked in right behind him. There was no question about who was the stronger player as far as playing the blues with a band like that. You know, George he just didn't have that kind of power in his guitar playing. He's great. He's my favorite.
Yeah, sure.
Doing jazz guitar player. But when it comes to playing powerful blues, that's a whole nother bag, you know?
Yeah. B.B. King there's like this footage still on YouTube, like The Thrill Is Gone. B.B. plays with Gary Moore.
Oh,
and, Gary Moore, he was amazing. Like he burns it. It's like, bah! And then B.B. comes and it's just like, bah, and you're like, yep. Sorry, Gary. See ya.
Gary was really good. I knew
really good
with him.
Yeah.
So I saw a really good concert of his in New York one time. It was good.
Yeah, but still, like you said, yeah. But you mentioned the Brecker Brothers. There's, I've spoken to Randy, and he just released this live and unreleased new recordings. I think of.
Yeah, the thing from 1980, right.
Yeah, when you were in it, and he said that this is like probably his favorite edition of the band because you guys were really.
Band was on fire. It was on fire. We were cooking. There's another recording that I heard from that same tour. It was in Stockholm.
Oh, wow.
They only have an audio recording of it. Well, they only have audio of this one too. But the performance was even better sounding in Stockholm than on that record.
Really?
That record's good though. The band, it was just a cooking band. We were having such a good time that summer. Oh my God.
It was like a 30-month, 30 gig tour, kind of like this, or 1 month tour, right? Or
yeah, it was 1 month. It was the summer in 1980. I remember it because I was there in Europe for 2 months. I went over, I did a month with Billy Cobham.
Yeah.
And then we finished in Norway, and then the Brecker Brothers started in Norway. So I just hung out an extra day in Norway and then joined the Brecker Brothers. Then we went and we did Montreux and it was just a great time, man. I wish I could have done that every summer since then, but unfortunately, I didn't do the Brecker Brothers couldn't get the record label support to tour that much. So,
wow.
So we didn't do that was our only real major tour, that 1980 tour of Europe. We did a few gigs around the States, but we didn't do that much more, unfortunately, and it was such a great band. But
it's burning. Yeah. It's burning. Yeah. But you mentioned Billy. How was it with Billy? I mean, there's this record Flight Time, right?
Yeah, there's that, right? Yeah.
And then there's this tune you wrote, Jackhammer. I saw it the other day.
Yeah. He played it. It's funny because, I'm glad that my tune's on his record, but he played it so damn fast I could hardly play it myself. It's supposed to be more of a mid-time to a do.
Yeah.
But it feels better.
It's so fast.
I know. It's like, he used to start the concerts off playing this bebop tune. It was like, and especially if you're playing outside and it was a cold night, man, to warm your fingers up to play at that tempo was not easy, But Billy's great. I mean, I've been hoping I can play again with him. We're in touch on Facebook and stuff. He actually said if I could have got to Switzerland, if I could have got to Europe by last October, we could have done some gigs. But
yeah,
he just had a hip replacement operation, so he's recuperating from that. But he's got a great groove, man. Billy's great.
Yeah. Also, that record, it's really. I mean, Tim Landers and Don Grolick. I love Don Grolick.
There's some nice stuff on it. Yeah.
Such a great player. But speaking of this song, Jackhammer, I saw one footage also. I don't know if you saw that one. You and Mike Brecker, and I don't know who's the rhythm section. It's your band.
From 7th Avenue South, probably. Yeah.
Man, you guys are.
My friend John Hammond. He luckily he had a little TV. We've been friends since high school, and he was one of the first guys that I know to get a personal video camera. When the first Sony Betamax came out, he was there getting one, and so he ended up, he filmed a lot of stuff that I did live, and he would just go around and film all kinds of people. He's got thousands of hours of video that he shot back in those days. Like, there's the videos with me and Jocko from 55 Grand. Have you seen that stuff?
No, really. I have to check it out. Wow.
There was 2 nights. It was one night it was me, Jocko, Mike Stern, Richie Morales. That was the band. It was like 2 guitars and bass and drums, and then on the second night, Randy Brecker was playing also.
Seriously?
And,
wow.
Yeah. You can if you Google up if you
I'll check it out. Yeah.
Barry Finnerty and Jocko Pastorius. There's a bunch of stuff. The video quality is pretty bad, but you know.
How was it like with Jocko? I mean, your experience.
You know, man. I wish I had recorded the rehearsal, because he came over to my house. It was the middle of February, right? It was the gigs were February 28th and 29th, 1984. So it was the middle of February. It was like 10 degrees outside. Celsius, that would be minus something or other.
Yeah.
You know, -8 or something. And it was cold. And he shows up at my place wearing a T-shirt and carrying his bass in a brown paper bag.
Oh man, shit.
And the first thing he said was, "You want to do a taste? Come on, let's do a taste." And he reaches in his pocket and pulls like $3,000 in hundreds, $3,000 in $100 bills, and he's just putting the dollars apart, like, you know, trying to find the little package of blow that he had in there, right? So he finally found it. You know, we did a taste, and we played the rehearsal. And man, he played so great. He played his ass off. It was fantastic. And we were rehearsing my tunes because it was my gig.
Ah, okay, it was your gig. Wow, okay.
My gig, yeah. And we rehearsed my tunes. He played the shit out of them. And then after the rehearsal, he said, "Let's do another taste. Where's my shit?" And we went looking for it, but he had put it down on my radiator. I had a radiator, and so we looked at the paper was there, but everything in it had melted. It was not just a piece of paper there. So he was bummed about that. But then we got to the gig. He didn't do any of my tunes. He just went into his thing, you know, doing you know, the chicken and all that stuff, and whatever he wanted to do. He was uncontrollable, you know.
Yeah.
But he was still functional then. He wasn't like out on the street, like, you know, begging for dimes and shit. You know, he really was, you know, he really had a mental problem. You know, if he could have got on medication and stayed on it, he might not have died so young. And it was really sad, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You know, his name was good for a few $1,000s anytime he'd play it in a club, right? So he would get these gigs, and I did one with him. When it was his gig, but then at the end of the night he says, "Oh, by the way, there's no money involved." You know, because what would happen was he'd owe money to all these dealers, and the dealers would all be there waiting for their money, and he'd have to pay them.
Seriously?
You know,
wow.
Guys used to get in fights with him. Okay, guys used to beat him up and threaten to stab him and all kinds of shit over that. You know?
Yeah. That's so sad, man.
He was a mess.
That's so sad. But yeah, I mean, now you mentioned it, like your list of people who you played with, it's just getting longer and longer. So, you know.
I played with a lot of people at least once, you know. I mean,
yeah.
Still never played with Herbie. I would love to play with Herbie Hancock.
You never did with Herbie? What about with Chick? Like, since he did.
You know, I had a thing with Chick where, I mean, you know, in San Francisco, I wanted that Return to Forever gig. So I played. I kind of auditioned for that band, but I was there the same night as Bill Connors was there.
Oh,
and we both played at the same time, I think it was. And I had my big Johnny Smith, my jazz box, and Bill had his Les Paul when he had distortion, and he also brought a rooting section. So when he played, he was rocking out and playing all this, you know, powerful stuff, and I just couldn't do it because I had the jazz box. I couldn't match the tone, and so he got the gig, and it was like, you know, if I could have done it different, but that was what I did, and you know, and I played with Chick a few other times where he sat in with the Brecker Brothers and
stuff like that.
But you know, I never, you know, I would have loved to play with him more, but I mean, he liked guitar players that really feature chops. I've noticed. You know what I mean?
Frank Gambale last year.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, when I heard Frank Gambale play, I mean, I heard him at the NAMM show a couple of years ago, and the main reaction that people have to him is go, "Wow, whoa, woo, ah, woo," because he does this spectacular,
sweeping or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I wish I could do it. I can't, you know. I just don't. I mean, I've got some chops, but I'm not the kind of player that likes to just feature chops. I'm always trying to play melody, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you know, like Holdsworth, another example, you know? I mean, you know, nobody could match him technically. He was ridiculous.
Definitely.
You know? But when I'd hear him, it's like he would just always go to the same place within 10 seconds of his solo. You know,
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It would just like burn me out. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, I don't know if I should even tell you this, but I mean, I don't know if this is good, but one of the last times I saw him, we were at the NAMM show in LA, and I guess he'd been drinking some, you know, and you know, we knew each other. He was always really nice to me, you know. He played when we were with when I was with Joe Farrell, we opened for the Tony Williams Lifetime.
Oh, wow.
The Bottom Line.
Wow.
Tony Williams Lifetime, Holdsworth had just joined, and in the audience were Pat Martino, George Benson, and John McLaughlin. And I was like 23 years old. I was like nervous as hell. And back in those days, I used to get really tense, you know, when I got nervous. It took me a few years till maybe after I was 25 or a little older than that to not tense up, to use that to play better. But at that time, I would tense up and I wouldn't be able to get the licks out completely, you know. But Alan was the only guy that said, "Hey man, you sounded really good, man." He was the only guy that was nice to me. You know, George Benson, Pat Martino, and John McLaughlin didn't say anything, but Alan did, you know. And then at the Bottom Line, I mean, at the NAMM show, one of the last times I saw him, he came up to me. I could tell he'd been drinking, and he gave me a hug, like kind of a big sloppy hug. He was like, "Man, you're such a great guitar player, man. Studio, you're just so amazing." And I'm like, I was a little embarrassed, you know what I mean? It was like he was almost crying, you know. I was like, "Alan, you know, thank you, man, but you know, come on," you know.
Yeah.
But you know, he appreciated what I do, I guess, you know.
Oh man, definitely. I mean, come on, you earned so many amazing records. It's just
yeah, but you know, I mean, I really haven't worked. I haven't worked very much, you know, honestly, in my career. As far as actual playing, I mean, I've been involuntarily retired almost for like years. Feels like I don't do hardly. I mean, I would love to be one of these guys that's on tour, like, you know, 6 months out of the year and a lot of shows and concerts. But you know, I've been back in California for over 20 years now, 22 years, and it's just you know, I don't have that much. I mean, I try to stay active, but you know, I mean, aside from going, I did the tours with Randy, and we've done some stuff around in Japan and things like that, and Brazil. And I'm fortunate that I have that, but really, as a percentage of the year, I don't work very much, you know. I'd love to be much busier, you know. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
Well, but like if you're, you know, I don't know, like, but if I look at your not schedule, but your period from, I don't know, 1977 to 81, you must have done. You must have been on the road constantly, or no? Or am I mistaken? Like with the Crusaders.
I was on the road a lot. When I was with the Crusaders, I was. In those years between, like, say, 79 and 84, that was where I was on the road a lot in those years. Yeah. But then, you know, I mean.
How were those tours like? I mean, you know, I've done my share of touring, but like after 2001, you know, I cannot. How was the touring in 1981? Can you give me an example, or you know?
Well, with the Crusaders, it was great. I mean, they were on top. I mean, they had a #1 million selling jazz album with Street Life.
Street Life, yeah.
And it was a million seller, and you know, we were flying around first class, staying in all the fancy hotels, you know, and getting in all the women and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
It was great, you know. But I mean. But at the same time, I should have, you know, I wish that I had left them to be with Miles. I mean, you know, I should have toured with Miles, and I really do regret a lot of that stuff that happened with Miles. But hey, at least I'm on one record with him. And
yeah, can I just ask you here, like, how did the Miles story happen at all? I mean, like, because I don't know, I haven't read it anywhere. Like, how did
You can read my book if you want.
Yeah.
Listen to my audiobook.
Oh, okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
saw you got that book out. Yeah. Okay, I'll definitely check it.
But yeah, I met him through Julie Coryell, who was Larry Coryell's wife.
Yeah.
She was a friend of mine. And when Larry was on touring a lot of times, she used to, like, you know, try to get me around. She took me over to Miles's house a couple of times and introduced me. And then one weekend, I guess Miles was like, you know, he was in a bad shape because he broke his legs, and he broke his legs and that's crashing his Ferrari, and he was recuperating, and she brought him up to her and Larry's house in Connecticut, and she called me up and said, Barry, Miles is up here. He needs his Percodan. Go to the drugstore and get his prescription, and bring your guitar and shit, and come up to the house. So I had my Guitarganizer, the electronic guitar synthesizer thing that I played with the Brecker Brothers, and I had that. I put it in the car, and I went up and I spent the weekend up there at the house in Connecticut, and that's where I showed Miles the stuff, and we made a little cassette. He was like really intrigued and with the sound and the stuff that I was doing with that. It was pretty high tech for 1978 or whatever it was. Yeah, and then so. We made a little cassette. He actually pulled out his trumpet and started playing a little bit with me at the house. I was killing, you know. And then we went into. I drove him back to the city. And when we got back to the city, he wanted to go up to this friend of his house and hang out. And that's when he said, "Let's get a band, Barry. Let's get a band."
Oh,
yeah. But it was another 2 years before I got called to play on that record.
The Man with the Horn, yeah.
There's a whole story about that. You can read the book to hear it. I mean, we were going to record that tune that we worked on up at Julie's house, and it's just what happened was just a disaster. And it wasn't really. It was my fault for not standing up for myself. But you know, this stuff still haunts me to this day. It's over 40 years ago. It still haunts me.
Shit. But I will not go there. I just wanted to ask you, around that time, then you also became a band leader in New York City. You did that record, and
yeah. Well,
how did that happen? When did you decide, like, I want to become a band leader, like as a jazz player? I mean, kind of.
Well, I always wanted to be a band leader, you know. I mean, back then it was not that easy to do a project. I mean, it's not like today where everybody's got a computer and Logic Pro and Pro Tools on a computer. Anybody can do a professionally sounding record, pretty much.
Yeah,
you know, the stuff you got now. But back then, like, you know, if you were going to go in the studio, first you needed, you know, 10 rolls of tape that were this big, 25 pounds a piece, and cost $150.
Shit, yeah.
Okay. Then you needed to book a studio, which cost anyway from $50 to $300 an hour, depending on how
where he went
the studio was, et cetera. So that prevented me from doing, you know, and plus I didn't, you know, I was young and I really didn't know that much about making a good recording, you know. I mean, but so I had the original material though, but luckily I was living in a building that had lots of lofts and music places and studios and stuff, and so there was a pretty good 24-track recording studio in the basement called Planet Sound, and I became friendly with the owner, and he said, "Look, we'll front you the time, and you can pay us back when you get the deal." You know, so that's how I was able to make that New York City record. Mm-hmm. The thing was, though, that I instead of just getting a live band in there and making the tracks live, which is what I should have done, I tried to do what Quincy Jones was doing. I heard that he made records with a click track and put like bass and guitars and things on first.
Okay.
And he'd had drums and things. So I tried to make a record like that, and I had mixed results because I should have, because I tried to do everything with a click instead of just getting a band in there and recording live. That was my mistake, and it came out pretty good, but still, I should have recorded, just got a great rhythm section in there and played it live.
That's why so many players are on the records, right? I mean, you have like 3 drummers.
I mean, I paid everybody like, $100 or something. They did it for next to nothing because they were helping me out. Everybody did it like that.
Yeah, sure.
So, but back then, so the problem back then, I would have made a lot more records if it hadn't been for budget.
Yeah,
you got to have money. Somebody's got to pay for it, and I didn't have them. I didn't have the money, and my mom had just bought her house, which we couldn't borrow on it back then. When she passed, it was worth $1 million, but she'd paid $40,000 for it. It was worth $1 million. But back then she didn't have that kind of money to lend me. I needed at least 10 grand but back then more than 10 grand. It got more expensive as the earlier you go, the more expensive it was to make a record, So, I mean, but I always wanted to be a band leader. I mean, I always wanted to do my own material and stuff. I mean, I mean, a lot of guys my age, they've got 30 records out or more sometimes, I mean, I should have been doing a record a year or a record every year, 2 years, but I mean, it's just, it hasn't been that easy, but I mean, I'm planning, I've got a lot of new material and it's really pretty good. I'm going to try to record some more stuff.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.
When this is over, I've been writing some stuff in a more kind of retro jazz style, I mean, like, just like think of Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers kind of style, or mid 60s kind of, but groove and stuff,
How do you usually write? What's your approach to writing? I mean, how do you start?
I usually come up with a little bit of something. I didn't write anything for like almost the whole past year, and in the last month or two, I've written six or seven things. It just depends on my mood, but usually I just get a little bit of something, and then I add to it. I'll start with a little just
line
a little theme or melody, or sometimes it'll be a groove idea, Sometimes I start with, maybe I'll do something like this groove or that groove, like I might think a Tower of Power groove or a Weather Report groove or a samba or a 3/4, different kinds of things. Things I've heard, and I don't want to, I mean, sometimes a tune, why cover a tune when you can write a tune just like that tune? You know what I mean? With the same feel, with a different melody, some different changes. Why cover one? But I've got some nice new stuff though. I'm pretty happy.
And that's like that one tune you did, Count Up. That's like moment's notice kind of.
No, it's based on Count Up is based on Count Down.
Count Down, exactly. Yeah, I know it was a Coltrane thingy. Yeah, of course.
Coltrane played 10 years faster than we did, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But just speaking of this record, Straight Ahead, which kind of I mentioned in the beginning, how did you then hook up with those guys, like with Dave Kikoski and Victor Lewis? I mean, such a great band, man.
I knew Victor Lewis. I knew Victor Lewis from the time he came to New York. He used to play at those jam sessions I told you about that we used to have in the early 20s. And then he ended up staying in the apartment with me and Mike Wolf. Mike Wolf and I were roommates. You know Michael Wolf? He's a piano player.
Piano player, yeah, sure.
And so I know Victor forever. Kikoski I met in New York at a club, and he's just my favorite piano player. There's nobody I'd rather have on piano than him. He's so creative. He's a monster. He's great, and particularly the way he plays on my stuff. I just love it. And Mike Richmond. I might play with Mike Richmond in Chico Hamilton's band. The first.
Oh yeah, band. Exactly. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And then who else was it? Chuggy Carter, a friend of mine, plays percussion. He's a good buddy of ours. And I used Kikoski on my last 2 jazz records too. Did you know there's ones like Manhattan Sessions and
yeah, I saw those. Yeah.
Yeah, He plays so great on that.
He's a amazing chops. Yeah, like such a player.
Amazing creativity, man.
Also,
I mean, chops are one thing. I heard this guy the other night. His name's Sullivan Fortner.
Oh yeah,
Like
I know him. Yeah.
he's a younger New York guy. Maybe he's like 35 or something.
Yeah.
He's good. He's a good player, and he's got tons of chops. But I don't know, man. A lot of the younger crop of jazz players seem to have lost some of the groove that the older players have. I don't know what it is, but they're playing more of a intellectual style. I don't know what you call it exactly.
Yeah.
It's more intellectual. It doesn't grab me physically, you know. It's like twinkly fingers, and he's playing all kinds of quote hip shit, you know. But you know, I don't know. It's not reaching me. Like Brad Meldo, I feel the same way about him. It's like intellectual stuff. His intellectual approach. It doesn't dig in. He doesn't dig in really, you know. I like guys that dig in, like Horace Silver. You know, Horace Silver. I mean, he didn't play the most, technical stuff, but he dug in, you know.
Yeah, it was grooving.
And you know, since Chick passed, I've been listening to Now He Sings, Now He Sobs a lot.
Oh yeah.
It was the first piano trio album.
Yeah.
That was in 1968. Man, that's such brilliant shit, right there.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, you cannot. I mean, you might. You know, nobody will ever surpass that kind. You can't. You know, I mean, he set the bar so high that I don't think. I mean, there's very few piano players that you can say will do better. They might do as good.
But that guitar record, it's like, you know,
fantastic. You know,
drums. You know, it's just. Yeah.
I used to play. I'm going to record what was the waltz. You know. You know, I've got a backing track. I've just been waiting for the time to share it on Facebook. And the other first 10 steps.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I've been playing that shit since that record came out. I've been trying to play it. I had a chart on it when I was 20. Yeah. And I still can't play it as good as Chick. I mean, it's just not possible to do, you know? Yeah. I mean, listening to that guy was like getting a music lesson, you know? And I talked to Hubert the other day, Hubert Laws. You know, Hubert and Chick they've known each other for since 1960. You know, they go way back. You know, since they both went to Juilliard together. You know, and Hubert told me, you know, I was there. I was there when Chick recorded that record.
Wow.
He said, you know, he was there at the recordings. He said, you know, you don't realize sometimes that you're in the presence of some historical shit. You know, he said, you know, that, you know, I mean, I knew it was great, but you know. But he was there when Chick recorded that record, you know.
Wow.
And he was really sad because they had a whole new project they were planning to do. They were going to do some classical and some jazz. They would do some Scarlatti and some different kind of things. They were working on it. And he talked to him like 2 or 3 days before he passed, and then he was just like amazed. Chick hadn't told him he was sick or anything.
Wow. Yeah, he was like up until the last really creative, right? I mean, all the time.
Yeah. And playing great. Playing absolutely great. You know?
Yeah.
But
amazing. Yeah. But can I ask you, Barry, one more thing? Like we mentioned this album with Chick, and you also played with Roy Haynes, right? You did on that record.
I'm on one record with him. I never really got to know him very well, but yeah, I was on this record that Teru Nakamura, who was a bass player,
The Island,
producer friend of mine. Yeah, he got me on that Roy Haynes record. And Kikoski was on that too, I think.
But you never got to play with him like live then, or?
No, I never did. Unfortunately, I would love to, but you know, well, he's still around. He's 96.
That's true. That's true. He's still there. He's still there. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. I just, not to take more of your time, Barry. I just wanted to ask you one more thing. Like we mentioned B.B. King, right? And I've read somewhere that you've played with B.B. and you're also with the Crusaders and later also. And I just wanted to ask you.
That's right. We did a record in London called Royal Jam.
Yeah.
It's a double album set, and it was the Crusaders and B.B. King. So the Crusaders would do a set, and then B.B. would do a set, and then B.B. would come up and play four or five tunes with us, and it was great. You know, my line is, I got to know B.B. pretty good. We were on a first name basis after that week.
Really?
He would call me Barry, and I'd call him B.
That's a nice one.
And then in Montreux, I don't know if you saw that little video clip on YouTube.
Yeah.
I love that. I was there. That was in I guess 2004 or 2005. I was there to play. I did the gig with the Bargain Hunters band. Remember with Yost and Arne?
Yeah.
They became BBFC, and I was a judge of this guitar contest. Me and Todd Rundgren and Cornell Dupree judged jazz guitar contest. And then BB's and BB's gig, he was playing the big room. He was going to invite the winner of the guitar contest to come up and jam with him, and he also invited us. So it was like, I mean, and you know, he'd already been playing like for 2 hours, and he's like 79 already or whatever, how old he was. And it was 3 a.m. And if I'd been him, I would be looking at my watch going, man, when can I go home? I didn't, you know, but he was like, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so happy to be up here with all these wonderful young guitar players. And he was serious.
He really meant it, right? Yeah.
But that was a sweet little, you know, those sweet little 2 choruses that I got to play with him then. You know, I tried to sound as much like B.B. King as I could. You know, I played it. He goes, "Whoa, what's that?" You know.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
Dr. Jazz.